is a Fox News alert. Bin Laden is dead.
May 1st, the day that Osama bin Laden's life came to an end.
Confirmed. Urgent confirmed. Bin Laden is dead. Multiple sources. Osama bin Laden is dead.
Started shaking her fist, and the eagle will fly, and it's gonna be hell when you hear mother.
All right, welcome to Studio E here in the heart of Midtown Manhattan. We just watched that news montage of things that happened overnight, earlier today, and 6 years ago. 6 years ago, Geraldo Rivera was in the chair when the word came out, Osama bin Laden, dead.
The greatest night of my career. Just serendipitously, I was in Washington, D.C. I had gone the day before. First of all, good morning, Ainsley.
Good morning.
I had gone the night before. Erica and I had actually sailed our boat up the Potomac River to Washington for Saturday, the correspondents' dinner.
Couldn't get on Amtrak?
The infamous correspondents' dinner in which President Barack Obama really insulted Donald Trump, who was in the audience. You know, he showed President Obama mocking Trump's stand on the birther issue with Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Obama mocked him showing his birth video, which came from The Lion King, a cartoon of The Lion King. So he really mocked him, talked about President Trump had just begun talking about maybe running for president, and President Obama mocked that, ridiculed it, as many in the room did, saying, his experience at Celebrity Apprentice, choosing Gary Busey over Meatloaf certainly qualified him to hold the Oval Office, mocking him like that. Many people believe that Donald Trump vowed to and made his decision to run for president, God bless you, run for president that night when he was insulted.
Could be right.
So that's Saturday. We're in D.C., so we stayed for Sunday. At some time in the early evening, we got notification that the President of the United States on Sunday, this is the day after the Correspondents' Dinner, would be addressing the nation. So why in the hell is the President of the United States addressing the nation at 10 p.m.? My show went on the air at 10 p.m. At-large went on the air at 10 p.m. Why is the President of the United States addressing the nation so late on a Sunday night? It had to be something war-related, military-related. But we knew there was not an atomic bomb happening. You have sources all over the world. What could it be? Gaddafi, Muammar Gaddafi in Libya was on the lam at that time, so we thought maybe they got Gaddafi. But still, even getting Gaddafi wasn't that big a deal. It wouldn't be that big a deal. And then we had my brother Craig there, Greg Hart there at the Washington Bureau. Everything is buzzing. All the kids came into the Bureau. They're checking social media and so forth. And the buzz is happening. And finally, we go on the air, and I'm musing about Gaddafi, this, that, and I said, wait a second. What if it's Osama bin Laden? And it was something that occurred to me in a flash, and it turned out to be true, and it was the greatest news I had ever heard in my life.
When did you believe it was true? You didn't know till the president said it. I
didn't know. You didn't know for sure until
When did you believe it was true? When did you believe? Because you know that.
As soon as I said the words, what if it's Osama bin Laden? Because this man I had been obsessing about this man who killed so many of my friends and neighbors. It was the reason I came to Fox News to pursue him. I was in Tora Bora, Afghanistan, when he escaped, when we should have captured him. And this is almost 10 years later, and when the thought occurred to me, when it came out of my mouth, I thought it was true the minute I said it. The second I said it, as soon as I said, what if it's Osama bin Laden, I said, of course it's Osama. It was like a light went off, and it was so emotional. It was with such passion, knowing the distress the world's terror mastermind had caused, and that we had pursued him fruitlessly for so long. It caused so much misery to America. I just knew it was true, and Thomas McInerney, General McInerney, was sitting there on the set with me, and we looked at each other, and we started giving high fives, and it was true, and it was just like, it was the greatest night of my career.
I think we all remember where we were on that night, and it was so powerful for all of us who, for everyone, because we had all lived through 9/11, or most of us who were watching did. We interviewed Admiral McRaven earlier, and he was talking about the moment he knew. He was the commander. He's the one that told the Navy SEALs, go in and get this guy. Listen to what he said.
Well, I was in Afghanistan, commanding the raid from a little border forward outpost we had. And when the body returned, I was on a video teleconference with the president. The president asked me to ensure that, in fact, it was bin Laden, so I had to drive just 1 or 2 minutes out to the airfield, had an opportunity to talk to the SEALs and the 160th, the Night Stalkers, when they returned, took a look at the body, made sure, in fact, it was bin Laden, and then drove back and reported back to the president that that it was, in fact, bin Laden.
And outside the White House, you eventually moved over outside the White House, and it was like the greatest celebration, impromptu, in the middle of the night Washington has ever seen.
It was unbelievable. Just before I get Admiral McRaven, one of the great military officers we have, and so proud of him and his men, Robert O'Neill and the others who did this. They were actually in Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan, watching Fox News, watching me announce bin Laden's death, and bin Laden's corpse was right there. By then it had been moved to the Bagram Air Base. So they were watching Fox, and there is bin Laden's body. So Darla Shine, the wife of Bill Shine, the co-president of Fox News, suggested, Geraldo, why don't you, when Bret Baier and his team came and relieved me at midnight that night, why don't you go to the White House? So Bill passes on Darla's message. I go running over to the White House, and it was like Woodstock meets New Year's Eve. It was such an ebullient crowd, and everybody. It was like a mosh pit. They picked me up, USA in front of the White House. It was one of the most thrilling nights. And I noticed at some point that my phone was ringing. So I get to my phone. I don't hear the sound, but I see the text message. It's from General John F. Campbell, who is also at Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan. He's commanding the 101st Airborne, and they're watching the celebration in front of the White House. Awesome. And the 101st had it was a terrible deployment. They were losing 3, 4, 5 guys every day at that time, very down, very depressed. Suddenly, the leader of the bad guys, the enemy of the United States, our public enemy #1, had been killed, and General Campbell, who is my war buddy, was texting. It was just like the greatest night. I can't, I could be moved to tears just talking. I was on the air then until like 6 in the morning. And the celebrations
were not just in Washington; they were in New York,
they were in Boston, Square, everywhere.
What did it
was
mean
just
for
great.
you from the standpoint of losing so many friends? I mean, I moved to New York after 9/11. You've been here for a long time. You had so many friends that you did lose there. So what did that really mean to you from an emotional standpoint?
Ainsley, it was when my suffering was minor compared to the families that actually lost brothers and sisters and fathers and mothers and so forth. But we were hit pretty hard. I lived in Monmouth County at the time. We had the highest per capita casualty rate because many of the people from Cantor Fitzgerald, the big financial company, worked at the top 2 floors of the Trade Center. They lost almost 700 of their 800 or 900 New York employees. Plus, we lost 6 dads in our kids' grade school, and it was to take it so personally. It wasn't just that. He had attacked our country, had attacked our way of life, but it really was almost
he got away with it.
It was more personal. And he got away with it, and I was right there in Tora Bora when we knew, and we were saying he was in Tora Bora, and people were doubting it, and then it wasn't until years later that the Senate confirmed that he was there and that he escaped, and we rerouted. Right on this show, we traced his steps. But to actually get him, for the personal and the professional, to be joined that night, to answer your question specifically, was what made it so great to me. There was a tremendous sense of relief and satisfaction that revenge was wrought on this evil man, and that my country had scored a great victory in the battle against terrorism.
And that was one of the few times Barack Obama called President Bush and said, listen, I got news for you. We killed this guy, and that was kind of interaction. Speaking of presidents, past and present, let's talk about our past president. He decides to go 100 miles away from Washington, D.C., and not go to the president, and not go to the White House Correspondents' Dinner yesterday, on Saturday. Was that a good decision for him?
Brian, that's a tough call. I'm a conciliator, a compromiser. I only think that the country works with bipartisanship. To me, what happened Saturday night was an example of what's wrong with America today. The president going to Harrisburg, God bless him, he's my friend, I love him, I wanted to succeed more than anything.
It was a great rally.
A great rally, but he was preaching to the choir. There was nobody in that room that didn't vote for Donald Trump. On the other hand, you had all the correspondents feeling defensive. Yes, they were free, but they were morose. The Correspondents' Dinner without the president was, it's almost like a birthday party without the person celebrating the birthday. They're sitting there being smug and elite, and then the Harrisburg crowd is feeling, you know, emboldened and embattled. And I want these two Americas to come together. I think that this president has the unique ability, because of his background and because of the, you know, he used to be friends with Chuck Schumer. I'm sorry, but I remember those days.
Well, who do you blame? I mean,
that's an excellent question, Brian. I blame both sides. I really do. I think that starting with the inaugural address, it could have been much more inclusive. Again, we were together that morning of the inaugural address. I thought that, and Ainsley, we were together on the night of the actual inauguration. And, you know, I think that we have a chance now. And even this budget proposal that they passed, you know, that's now we have the government funded through September. I like a lot of aspects of it because it is a moderate plan. Yes, there's a $1.5 billion for strengthening the southern border, but it doesn't include money for the wall because we're already 70% of the way there. We've already cut those, we've cut the illegal crossings by 70% according to the president. That was free. That was just him talking. Talk. It works. So I want the president to reach out. And as I joked over the weekend, if the president and Chuck Schumer have to wear hazmat suits so they could be in the same room together, let them don the hazmat suits, but make the sufficient compromises to get a health care bill that works, to get a budget that's fair, to be strong in defense. I love what the president's been doing in terms of foreign affairs is a strict A+.
But Geraldo, Senator Schumer may want to get a deal. It doesn't matter. All he cares about is his base and keeping his job. His base will not let him, and President Trump has not put the pressure on him to make that move, to say, here's your $1 trillion, help me spend it.
I think the way to do it, Brian, I mean, I think that compromise is the only way. And the way to do it, you got to hold your nose. You don't make peace with your friends. You make peace with your enemies. Hold your nose. Go forward. They can do it. They can find common ground. I think the American people want progress. They want... why not, I'll give you a great idea. Why not Schumer and President Trump getting together on the infrastructure bill? Everybody wants new bridges, new tunnels, new highways. Yeah, let's put America back to work in a literal sense with something grand that everybody could agree. And you could have toll roads to help pay for it, to offset the deficit problem with the infrastructure. I just think that there are ways for good Republican ideas like toll roads, you know, infrastructure paying for itself, and democratic principles like service to the people. I think that these things can mesh. They can work, and Donald Trump could be one of the great presidents. I really believe that that's true.
I think the tell will be when it comes to taxes, which could be shortly.
Well, I think that that's true also.
All right. And great job bringing us that moment. 6 years ago, you were the perfect person there. Thanks so much for being there.
Thanks, Geraldo.